Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 13 should show up sometime around June for us to take a look at, and then we'll move on from there and see the final release in September. Now every June at the Worldwide Developer Conference we see whatever's coming out, and we have some hints as to what we might see this time around. Now many rumors were saying that we would see a full redesign just like we saw from iOS 6 that we have here to iOS 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 like we have now. This was quite different before. This was the multitasking, if you hadn't seen that. The menus were quite different, and it was just a different setting overall as far as the way everything worked. Once we were familiar with all of that, iOS 7 introduced the flat design language and basically what we see today with the control center and different things like that, although they have changed quite a bit as well over time. Now, instead of a full redesign, we may see a slight redesign, and the first thing that we have pretty much confirmed at this point is that there will be a dark mode. And I have Smart Invert on right now, so this kind of gives you an idea of what it might look like. So on the iPhone, that's Smart Invert. If you go into the music library, you get the idea. The colors may not be the same, whether or not they're customizable, I don't know, but that gives you an idea as to, well, that didn't really do anything, but that gives you an idea as to what it might look like with Smart Invert on. And it has quite a few errors, but you'll see maybe a dark mode in the App Store gives you that sort of idea as well. So that gives you kind of a preview. If you want to check that out, go to Settings, go to General, then go to your accessibility settings, go to display accommodations, and then go to invert colors and Smart Invert, and you can turn that on or off. Now the next thing we may see fully redesigned is Carplay. If you've used Apple CarPlay in your vehicle, it's basically a larger version of a few apps on here, such as music, and music is just easier to use, and then you have Siri integration. Although if you've ever used it and you've used it with Siri and text, voice to text can be very annoying when it's actually reading back to you. I would love to see some changes or some differences with that when it comes to Apple CarPlay. However, that's just a rumor at this point. Now, the next thing that we may see changed at this point is multitasking. There's some rumors of a complete redesign for some things on the iPad to make more use of this beautiful display. We have a 120 hertz display that we can't do a ton with because it's just the same grid layout we're used to. So instead of having this, we may have more powerful integration as far as multitasking, maybe some widgets, maybe some ways to move between apps a little bit more efficiently on an iPad and get some more pro use out of it. I would love to see that, and there's quite a few rumors as far as home screen and file management specifically on the iPad being changed. Now, another thing I know a lot of you may appreciate is some rumors about dynamic wallpaper. And of course, I'll link this wallpaper as I always do, but a dynamic wallpaper, I wanted to show you what that might look like because macOS already has it. And basically, Apple was going to integrate all of these features last year, but instead focused on stability and pushed them off to this year. So you'll see this is a dynamic wallpaper. And what that means is during the day, it will change from day to night. So if I slide up, you'll see it goes to night. So you get that idea. That's just Apple's website for macOS Mojave. But you'll see again, well, if I go back up here, it's dark and it fades in. So you can see that for yourself if you'd like on your iPhone to give you an idea of how that would work. So it's really nice. And the final rumor we have about iOS 13 as far as new features go so far has to do with the News app. Now, I rarely use the News app, and in fact, I haven't opened this in quite some time, but we may have some magazine subscriptions in here as well in the future. Apple bought a magazine subscription company, and I would love to see that integrated in either books or news or something like that, so that maybe we could have a standardized format when it comes to magazines on the iPad. If you've ever used magazines on the iPad, sometimes the experience can be okay, and other times it can be really not too pleasant, and it's better just to use a magazine. Now, one of the things that we may see hardware-wise come along is new iPad and iPod hardware. And that would be really welcome for the cheaper entry-level iPad. Since this got a new redesign with the iPad Pros this year, we'll probably see something more similar to that, but on a lower cost scale. And I would expect that maybe even as soon as March, along with a new iPod as well, since Apple hasn't done much with that in quite some time. Now, I would expect the iPhones this year also to have USB-C integration. Now, a lot of people said this wouldn't happen. I think you will see it happen, and either you'll see a USB-C or none at all, since Apple is famous for kind of going portless as much as it can. So we'll either see USB-C coming to the iPhone or nothing at all. And USB-C can be licensed just like Lightning, so it's not a matter of money there. It's something that's more of a convenience, I think, that would be great to have one charger for everything. Now, we do have some bad news, and that has to do with older phones. It looks like, and this is not a 100% confirmed source, but it looks like the iPhone 5S, 6, and 6 Plus may not be joining us with iOS 13. They may not have the hardware necessary to run whatever graphical changes there might be. They may or may not, but Apple is looking like they're going to phase it out. Now, originally they said they weren't going to support the 6S, 6S Plus, or the SE, but then that report later recalled it and said, well, they made a mistake. They may still support a 6S, 6S Plus, and an SE. And I certainly hope they do. These are plenty fast to run most things, and the processor still competes when exporting 4K video with the latest processors. So I think for the most part, we should see these phones carry over, but we may not see the older ones, 5S, 6, 6 Plus. So that's pretty unfortunate if that happens, but it has been some time since they were released. Now, aside from dropping support for these, Apple may drop support for early iPad minis, iPad mini 2 through 4, the iPad Air 1 and 2, and also all current iPod touches. So it looks like we may be losing a lot of hardware with iOS 13, but to be quite fair, they have supported it for a very long time on iOS, so it seems to be okay that way. But let me know your thoughts about all of these updates in the comments below. Would that make you happy to see those changes? And what else would you like to see as well with the dynamic wallpapers and maybe some other things? I'd love to hear what you have to say about it in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.